Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode we're checking out a vertical shooter that at a glance looks like a Raiden clone, but once you begin playing shapes up to become not only a challenging shooter, but a fun and satisfying experience that up until recently could only be found in arcades. We're looking at Mad Shark, developed and published by Allumer, released into arcades in 1993. This would come to the arcade archives through Hamster for the Switch and PS4 in August of 2023. So what's the story with this one though? Well, there really isn't one, since Mad Shark follows suit with developers like NMK by just throwing you into the action once you put your credits in. The opening cutscene is quick with a splash of the logo and a stage segment, and then you're off to save the world. Gameplay wise, you've got a 2D vertical shooter that has 7 stages of mayhem, and this cooks with a similar vibe to games like Truxton, Raiden, and the Thunder Dragon games, which is a solid base of influences. Where Mad Shark shows similarities with Raiden especially is its combat, giving you several shot types like the Vulcan, spread shot, laser, and missiles, along with a stackable crush bomb. Weapon upgrades work in a way that you'll want to pay attention to, since grabbing the same icon will raise your weapon level. However, if you grab a different icon at base level, you will start from the base level on that new weapon too. The good thing is, once you're powered up with one weapon, you can switch weapons and maintain that power level, but not vice versa. You get 3 main weapons, all of which are powerful and can work through numerous situations. The laser and Vulcan shots are the more powerful parts of your arsenal and will hold you down even when you're getting mobbed. Your craft is nimble enough to get through most hazards, but your hitbox is on the larger but more manageable end. This is crucial since enemies really don't waste time before rushing you, and when they swarm, it gets active fast. When the game starts putting it on you, Mad Shark can get pretty hectic. You've also got to keep in mind this is a one hit and back to the checkpoint kind of shoot 'em up too. This also applies to boss fights, where again it's one hit and you start the encounter over again. This game does have a bit of mercy though, and will give you what you need to recover when you get shot down. Green or red's resupply crafts will spawn in once per continue and drop either several upgrades or a full tilt upgrade for whatever you have equipped. Enemy formations, especially when they're both on the ground and in the air, can and will put you in some tight situations, and often your best response will be to shoot your way out. Bosses are large mechanical beasts that have several moving parts, but much like Raiden, you can either bomb spam them into oblivion or learn the dance moves and save those bombs for the bigger enemies later. Just remember, if you get shot down, you do lose all of your excess bomb stocks, and the final boss will keep you moving since this has the most health points in the game, but once you learn the attack patterns, you will defeat it. The one-hit deaths and being sent back to a checkpoint does make this a bit tougher, sure, but it can also work to your benefit at times and skip you ahead of certain sections. However, it might be at the cost of skipping a resupply ship too. This is where the Truxton or early Toe plan comparison comes in, since it's a game where it helps to learn where enemies will be and how they attack. Quick reaction will help keep you alive longer, but knowing your enemy and a fair bit of bullet hurting will also be the keys to victory here. Once you get that last shot into the boss, the game begins another loop with increased bullet speed and enemy aggression. Graphics wise is where this gets interesting, considering the story of Allumer is an elusive one, as there isn't much info on the developer. Mad Shark runs on SATA first generation hardware, often found on JAMA PCB boards, but the specifics were hard to track down. While not 100% confirmed, some resources credit developer Moss for Mad Shark alongside Allumer, which in a way would make sense considering Moss would form as a company officially in 1995. With Seibu Kaihatsu, the initial Raiden developer and license holder, going bankrupt in 1993, this puts Mad Shark in between Raiden's licensing switching hands to Moss and the 1993 arcade release of Raiden 2. If they were involved, it would make sense how much of a Raiden clone this is, since it has nearly everything from the first 2 games down to the resupply ship sprites. While it all looks familiar, it does have some visual differences like the weapon icons and the omission of the sweeping laser. You get some detailed stages, with several having nice layered scrolling like the levels with bridges and elevated structures. The stage designs are colorful from start to finish, from the forest to the reaches of space on the last couple of levels. It's interesting you get so many Raiden-like traits, but again, it's possible that some of those original developers may have been part of this project. Sprites are also well detailed with a lot of moving parts, and when downing ground-based enemies, you can knock out their turrets before destroying the rest of the craft. Aerial enemies' barrels recoil as they fire, and propellers are actually very well animated as they rotate. Explosions also come in a lot of sizes, and the visual boom is always satisfying. The animation detail on the ground-based enemies' explosions is also pretty impressive here. There's also a couple moments where you have some pre-rendered 3D sprite work, like the 2 crafts you can pilot during the game in the beginning and the end, so you get a neat bag of tricks visually here. Boss designs are badass with huge mechanical beasts, and these things get gnarly by the halfway point of the game. The final boss has a lot of hit points and moving parts, and learning the attack pattern and saving as many bombs as possible is the way to end that encounter quickly and fly out to victory. This boss reminds me a lot of the final encounter from Thunder Dragon 2, and with no respawns, is a satisfying battle to win once you get there. Mad Shark also doesn't have a credit sequence for its team, but does loop letting you go for even higher scores with an increased challenge if you're up for it. Sound-wise, Mad Shark is solid across the board from the tunes to the sound effects work. The soundtrack isn't anything overly raucous, but at the same time, not forgettable either. The tunes keep the energy steady as you mow down the ops, and through the game's 7-stage run, you get a handful of tracks that have similar instrumentation and a recurring boss theme, and for what's there, it's decent. Since the game loops and doesn't display credits for the development team, after the thank you messages, we don't know who composed any of it really. But if it's not the Raiden team themselves, it's a sound team that definitely did their homework. Sound effects are also nice and punchy here with some proper shot audio for the onboard weapons. The audio for the Vulcan shot in particular sounds crunchy, and the crush bomb has a seismic wallop every time it drops. The balance from the action to the music is also pretty good, with one never drowning out the other, so developer Allumer certainly had a solid grasp of audio, and while not groundbreaking, it's still totally fine. It's got a B-movie charm to it, similar to NMK developed games, sans the voice modulation, and overall it sounds good. To sum it all up, Mad Shark at a glance looks and plays like a Raiden clone, but to leave it at that is only skimming the surface. You get a challenging and fun vertical shooter that is certainly going to clap you up until you figure out strategies that work best for you to stay alive. And while not overly flashy, it has enough to keep you wanting to go one more round. The one-hit no respawn system may give some trouble initially, but you do figure out tactics to stay alive the longer you play it. The development of it still does remain a bit of a mystery, and for how close it feels to Raiden, it's hard to believe it might not be the OG Saibu Kaihatsu team. If you're into more old school style vertical shooters, this one's worth a look and a great addition to the arcade archives. It's rad that Hamster brings titles like these and Zing Zing Zip to audiences, and hopefully will continue to do the same in the future. Mad Shark gets an 8 out of 10 and comes recommended to shoot 'em up fans and arcade game fans who are looking for a challenging game to tango with that's going to feel familiar. Out of the shoot 'em ups available on the arcade archives, this next to the NMK titles are all great games to check out from more niche developers that have a tendency to just throw you into the action without much explanation and letting the game speak for itself. This is available for download on the Nintendo Switch and PS4 and is a fun one to check out, especially if you're into the more difficult yet addicting shooters. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad to use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.